Tamara? Hey.
Hello.
Have we met before?
I don't think so.
Hmm.
I'm on my 8th day with the city. Of course, I'm the new city attorney.
Oh, no, I didn't know that.
Oh, okay.
We shouldn't rush it, I guess, because you're going to have to just say everything again. So, but anyway, welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
Hi, Mateo.
Hello.
Hey, when do you pick what you decide you're going to have behind you? So,
Oh, I don't know.
are you getting a little antsy for a new car? The Tesla's not enough?
No. That's just a cool little picture. That's the
Whiskey biscuit.
whiskey biscuit. Thank you. That's the whiskey biscuit now.
I haven't been there in a little while.
Yeah.
Have you had their, it's not the cheeseburger, but something like that? Oh,
Yeah, it's a chicken and something, or I don't know. I can't remember what it is, but it's quite good. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. When I go there and get a dinner, I share it because it really is a big enough. Have you been to that Asian restaurant next door to the Crab House?
Mm-mm. Oh yeah. No, I have. That's the
Basil something, right?
yeah. That's pretty good. It's pretty good.
What kind of food is it?
I think they have Chinese there, and then they have Thai, and I don't know. It's pretty good.
Did you
I've been
try
there for a while.
What's that?
I haven't been there for a while, but it's quite good.
That's one of the places I've never tried.
Yeah. Have you tried Zomo?
No, is that good?
It's good. That's really good.
Is it one of those ones where it's better, more inexpensive to do at lunch?
I don't know. It's not that bad, I don't think.
It is.
No, I don't think so.
I'm sorry, guys. Oh, we did our neighborhood garage sale. Just take a wild guess how much we earned.
I don't know.
It was a church-wide unity where people dropped off for months, a bag here, a couple boxes here. $2,600.
Oh wow.
That's a lot of stuff. I call it other things after you've touched it for the 5th time, but it's a lot of stuff.
Wow.
Have you guys seen that house is up for sale over by Bishop Elementary?
3100 Delaware. Yep. Have you looked at the listing as what
Someone said it's already bought. Brian told me it's already bought.
it's under contract, but if you look at the listing, I highly recommend you read the listing as what they say in there.
It rips my heart out. It rips my heart out. I wanted to call that. Has anyone else read it?
Yes.
Oh,
And Lauren sent a copy of the list from Zillow. And they're also offering it for a demolish so that they can build a fourplex there.
Yeah.
That's the part that just ripped my heart out. I
Yeah.
guess the inside with those guys there all that time, they've spent more time outside than inside, I guess. Someone said the inside pictures still look pretty sad.
Oh, the first floor is beautiful. The second floor, there's some sort of water damage in the plaster, but it's all very fixable.
Well, and that particular house is on the Historic Homes Inglewood video of the moments in Inglewood history.
I haven't seen that one yet.
Yeah.
Is it time?
I think so. I think it's time.
All right. Yeah. So would you like to call the meeting to order, Merlinda?
Yes, let's all come to order. I make it 6:34 p.m.
And I'll go ahead and do roll call.
Right.
Chair Ellswick.
Here.
CJ Cullinan.
She raised her hand.
You're muted.
Here, I keep trying to turn off the darn.
Thank you. Matt Crabtree.
Here.
Lauren Cooper. I think she's going to be absent this evening. Cash Parker.
Here.
Jason O'Brien. Here. Helene Federici.
Here.
Dave Cuesta.
Here.
And Eric Sampson is present. And Madeline Hinkfest.
Here.
Thanks. All right. That's everybody.
Do we have any information on Lauren? Has she had her child?
Yes, a week ago today.
I did not know.
7 pounds, 13 ounces, 19 inches long, and her name is Mara. So, yeah, Lauren is on maternity leave at the moment. That she's rather tired with a week-old baby, so. Let's go ahead and first item, of course, is to review the minutes from May 19th. I did not have any comments. Did anyone else?
Move to approve.
Thank you.
I'll second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
I'll abstain since I was not at the meeting.
Aye. Yes, we missed you.
So I see all ayes except Lauren Cooper, who's absent, and Jason O'Brien, who is abstaining due to being gone the last meeting.
Yeah. And our old business was starting with 16611 and submitting to the new city attorney, who I see as present. And
I have to add, Melinda, Tamara and I were colleagues at my law firm, but we never met because she came and went during the time of COVID. So I commend Councilman Cuesta and his colleagues for selecting someone so obviously bright to have worked at our law firm to be the city attorney.
Yes, and in fact, this was pretty much my office at Hall and Evans, my
Right.
home office.
And I have to commend you for choosing to be city attorney of such a fine city as well.
Yes, I'm 8 days in, and it's really been a great experience so far. The people are great, and the ability to contribute to commissions such as yours is really, really fulfilling. So I'm glad to be here at your meeting this evening.
Thank you.
well, as you may have heard, we've worked very hard on rewriting the ordinance that established the Historic Preservation Commission to make it a little less vague. And it's been reviewed by what, 4 different attorneys now?
It's been through a few. That's
Yeah.
four. That's 4, not counting me.
Yeah. And part of my question is, do we want to work on it some more before we submit it to Tamara? And
then, so just a heads up, I did give Tamara the last few drafts of the landmark protection language. I believe she is ready to have a couple comments on that.
So now I think, the 4th attorney to review it in an official capacity. I actually drafted a very similar ordinance in the last city. I was a city attorney in Kansas for 14 years. And we implemented an almost identical ordinance there. So I've reviewed it, and I've seen an almost identical ordinance be implemented and see how it works. So I didn't see anything of concern in the current draft that you have. So I would welcome any questions, or if you want to make further revisions, I'd be glad to assist you in that.
Hey, this is probably a question for Jason, because Jason actually took the lead on putting this together for the most part. Did we make revisions following the study session and the last meeting after the council's comments?
No, we haven't had any comments that were incorporated in there, and I'm struggling to find my notes from that, so they're somewhere. But I think it was, it wasn't anything major from that. It was just kind of some clarification of language and stuff. But yeah, as far as kind of comments from council, those have not been incorporated yet.
And anyone jump in here with a better recollection or further comments beyond mine. But Tamara, the council's concern when we presented this to them in the study session was that to make sure it was clear that it was a voluntary process, which was, I think, the intent of the commission from the beginning, to make it a voluntary process. And so some of the members on the council, and I think the council overall, were looking for some clarifying language in that regard.
Yeah,
I think that was the main comment. I don't remember any other specific, very substantive comments. That's where the most discussion was that I recall.
Mhm.
And I would be happy to review the video of that study session to get further guidance. I wasn't aware that had happened.
Well, and the last attorney before you to review it suddenly raised an issue of whether we were a quasi-judicial body. And the council did not seem to understand that by applying for a landmark designation, a citizen is voluntarily doing that, and that so if they are designated as a historic district or building, that and only if they are designated would we want to have some say about what happens to it. Also, there was a citywide study of prior to rewriting the Unified Development Code, and it came up with some recommendations for a historic preservation, much of which we'd already incorporated. That they said it was vague as it was written, and we needed more clarity in that, and also suggested that because there is a section on adaptive reuse, that we might want to add that to the historic preservation portion. And they referenced several times the city of Golden and theirs. So just FYI for the rest of the commission, I spent some time looking at the city of Golden's historic preservation board, their ordinance, it's kind of a handbook and so forth on certificate of acceptability and so forth. I'd point out that Golden is a CLG, and he has several of the more interesting parts I've saved and I've uploaded it to the commission's shared Google Drive. They're in a folder labeled Golden. And Cash, I'm not sure whether Golden was one of the cities you looked at when you were researching this to begin with.
I don't remember. It was Longmont, and I can't remember if it was
Greeley, I think you did.
Greeley, yes, because Greeley, I think, is not a CLG.
No, I think they are.
Are they? Oh, are they? Yeah, that might be right. That might be right.
And Longmont is, but
Longmont, Greeley, and yeah, I can't. Maybe Lakewood.
well, I
somewhere
do
else.
remember
I can't
Iowa
remember.
City, Iowa,
I know we talked about that. Yeah.
because they're similar in size to Inglewood.
Yes. Yep. Well, and Tamara, are you familiar with the CLG designation, the Certified Local Government?
Certified local government, yes.
Okay. I wasn't before I was on this commission because I don't practice municipal law. So it's interesting. We are, and Jason can comment on this much further and in depth and in more expertise than I can, but it was not our intent to necessarily present an ordinance that makes us a CLG, but it made sense to borrow, I think, a number of things from the CLG ordinances, which I think, Jason, is a lot of what was done as we were putting this together. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's correct. We just used the CLG template language from History Colorado, which was mostly just cut and paste through there, as it reflects not just CLGs, but yeah, other historic preservation commissions. But yeah, you're correct. We just kind of borrowed from that because no reason to reinvent the wheel. So and well-established language and stuff. So that's probably why it looks a lot like what you've seen already before, Tamara.
Yes.
I wanted to share a piece from Golden's certificate of applicability, the opening paragraph of it. So I'm going to there. I hope you can see this. It is. All right, findings of a review for the erection, demolition, moving, reconstruction, restoration, or alteration of any locally designated, and that is underlined, historic site. The ordinance does not allow HPB the power of approval or veto, just the power of review. That seems to be I think what we're trying to, we were trying to clarify with City Council, but like I say, it was very interesting reading Golden stuff.
Also, we discussed last time reducing the application fee for the process.
And yeah, I also noticed Golden doesn't have an application fee. That
I think if we want to incentivize people, I think we should have the lowest fee. So, because we're trying to get people to volunteer in. So that's just
yeah.
So I have just a brief update on that, is that I know we're going to be taking a look at our fee schedule, which will ultimately get approved by City Council. And that is under the discussion to definitely lower that fee. I can't give you the specifics on what that price is going to be at this point, but I know it should not be the 500 that was originally established.
And
So as it relates to the powers and duties of our commission, being quasi-judicial versus just reviewing, is there any other further discussion on that, I guess? Because that was one of the interesting points, I guess, brought up at the council meeting, right?
interesting is one word for it. Infuriating is another.
So I guess kind of real quick, I'll prime the question a little bit further and say, if we have the authority to approve historic designation for recommendation to council, does that make us actually a legislative body? Or how does that work?
But it's if it's structured that way, it's a recommendation, right? That's how you phrased it, Matt, which I think is how we intended it.
Right.
So Tamara's the expert on this. I don't think so if it's a recommendation, but again, Tamara's the expert on that.
No, I agree. If you are simply reviewing the facts, analyzing it, and recommending action for the council, I don't think you are acting in a quasi judicial capacity. You're still advisory.
Yeah, and perhaps Tamara, that'd be a thing, kind of, again, take note of if you watch that video too, because I don't recall that conversation too well, but yeah, that was specifically for the, review of, permits for designated properties, the certificate of appropriateness, because if we are, doing approvals for that or not, then that makes us quasi judicial. And, so I think that some clarity on what council was looking for there from the meeting, because I don't remember super well. It kind of went, around and stuff like that. But that'd be the section that'd be could possibly tip us into quasi judicial, which, I mean, a lot of preservation commissions are, and but there's also things you have to be careful with that. We'd really have to be tight on Robert's rules and all kinds of language that you'd use when reviewing those permits. But yeah, I guess that's kind of a section to kind of take note of too.
Well, right, and you're right. The certificate of appropriateness review is I guess a different question than just recommendations on landmark designation. But you could structure that in two ways, right? You could structure that as simply a recommendation, or you could structure that more as the Historic Preservation Commission has the ability to make that decision, which moves it into the quasi-judicial. So it sounded to me, and Dave, Councilman Questic, can comment how he perceived it since he's on the city council, but it sounded to me like the city council wanted the structure to be in the non-quasi judicial review posture, but that's what I heard from it. But others may have had other perceptions of it.
I'm happy to jump in here real quick, and it may hinge on, recommendation was the word that Matt used just now. And I'm not sure what term was used in that conversation, if it was something more binding or something more, I guess, advisory, like recommendation words. So if Tamara, I'd say the same thing. It might be worth reviewing just that section of the conversation. I think it was Mayor Pro Tem Sierra who raised the issue, and it caught me off guard too. Just in that I had never considered it. And so it came a bit out of left field for me. And in all our conversations we'd had leading up to this, I'm not sure that we ever had really stumbled across that as something that may come up. So that was one of the issues we encountered that I think it probably needs a bit more clarification just on what the city sees is allowed. And then, I mean, I get the control or the impression that the board wants to have as much influence as possible. So how can we obtain that if it's a deal breaker for the council for it to be quasi judicial? How can we get as much control as we can on the board and still stay outside of that quasi judicial realm? And that isn't to say the council may go for quasi judicial under the right circumstances, but it's certainly the conversation changed a bit, I feel like, once we got into that area.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was trying to say. You said it better than I did.
Well, and I mean, part of it, I believe, is just we don't get no respect. I didn't get a chance to introduce the commission to the council and mention the expertise that is contained on the commission. Which, I mean, we have a great deal of expertise on the commission. So it came across to me as if council was ready to substitute their judgment for ours on anything we or any application that that got that far, in which case, why even have a historic preservation commission? And, but then again, I was pretty furious, so.
Melinda, I guess to that note, I don't think that your takeaway there is necessarily incorrect. For what it's worth, I've seen council look to keep as much control as possible. And so I'm not sure if that negates the conversation we had, but I guess it's not necessarily unique either, I would say, for better or worse. That probably doesn't make it any better though. So, but I certainly see where you're coming from on that.
Well, and like I said, let's look again at the golden thing. They have a very specific list of things they will or what their criteria are, what they will look at, what they will not recommend, and what. Well, I say, let me share the screen again. Maybe is the and. But the kind of work that triggers a review, you know, alterations, demolition, new construction, so forth. What work is exempt, ordinary maintenance, so forth. And, but what was interesting, what tool does the city have to force a property owner to go through a review? And we're talking a property owner in a designated historic district, or, you know, I mean, already designated property. Denial of the building permit or denial of the demolition permit. The city, the city would deny those permits unless the property owner has gone through a review by the Historic Preservation Board. Like, now there's some teeth.
Last meeting, we discussed that if there was any decision-making that happened at the commission level, that appeals could always go up to city council. And so it was sort of a way to have some decision-making, leverage the expertise of the commission, have some teeth, but then also have the ultimate decisions at the appeal level be with city council. So it was something we discussed a couple of different ways last meeting.
Yeah, because that's actually been a priority with something we worked on, because we tried working with the building department to modify the demolition permit application. Because right now we have no input. And I mean, that house on Delaware is an example of it. The city wants to approve tearing it down. We have no way to stop them. So anyway, what is our consensus? Do we want to work on this some more? Thank you, Tamara, for reviewing what we've got already. Would you be ready to review it if we added more to it?
Yes, absolutely.
I guess from my end, I might ask, since you're already looking at this, Tamara, and gonna review that meeting, if perhaps before we add additional language, if we can kind of get your insights on what the city was looking for there, and what language would be most appropriate. That way, so we're not just adding stuff in ourselves that then you'll have to look over again, and maybe it's not the type of language we need. I guess for the commission, if people are okay with that, that would kind of be my suggestion.
And that sounds good. We want to
Agreed.
make a formal motion on that, or,
Or do we have to?
I don't know that you need formal action on it. If there's no objection, I would be happy to watch the video of that study session, revise the proposed ordinance, well, not an ordinance yet, the proposed language to respond to the concerns raised by City Council at that meeting. And then I could forward it back to Eric for distribution back to your commission.
Yeah, I mean, that works. And also the information that Melinda just provided on, I'm sorry, that was Golden? No,
Golden, yes.
yeah, that was Golden. Okay. Maybe provide that over to Tamara also, Melinda, and because that is actually, there are some interesting points in there that I don't think we've seen before. So this might be an opportunity to kind of refresh as we're also adjusting.
I can do that. Or maybe I'll just send you a link to it rather than forwarding all the documents.
Yes, that would be fine.
Okay. Making a note. All right. Our next subject is the historic neighborhood maps, and are we ready to unveil the latest and greatest version?
We're getting there.
We're not ready to unveil it yet, but we are getting there. We will have something to present next meeting. And I don't think we have much to update actually right now, but we have had to kind of take a few steps back and go back to the beginning a little bit. So it's taken a little longer. It's not as light a lift as I think we had hoped. So next meeting, I think we'll have something. Does that sound right, Matt?
Yeah, I think at least we'll have a point where we can begin getting input again on this process. So either from the commission or proceeding on to City Council, or however the commission wishes.
I think we'll probably go through the process like we did the last time, where we'll all agree as a group, take a vote on it before sending it off to City Council for review as a draft, making that really clear that it's just for initial feedback. Then we'll be able to apply that feedback and I think have more success rolling it out at the next level. And then we'll have to apply that feedback and roll it out again. So we're looking at like a few different iterations, but I think by doing it that way, we're going to be able to have something that is more widely, has more input into it and is more widely accepted.
Yep.
Thanks for continue to work on that.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
That's been a difficult project.
It's also one that you do over, it's like you do it over and over again, like there's iterations of it. So not frustrating at all.
Yeah. Well, isn't it, who was it that said insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result? But,
That's
this is
true.
turning into a Sisyphus in the boulder, right? It's
yeah.
However, there are a lot of variables associated with this. So each time you look at it, it gets a little bit different, a little bit better.
That's called mission creep or project creep.
Scope creep. Scope creep. Yes, been there. Been on projects where that's happened.
Yeah. We're all familiar with that. Eric, you had an update on the survey.
Yeah, so we've got everything contract-wise finalized on our end, and then we kind of had an initial little kickoff meeting last Friday with Jason O'Brien and Jenny Diekman, who will be our resource with the State Historic Society, or the State Historic Office, and Ashley Bushy, who will be our main contact for Pinion Environmental, who will be the group that is doing the historic survey. So I thought that kickoff meeting went pretty well. We're going to plan on, for the July 21st HPC meeting, bringing forth a survey for you guys to take a look at and make suggestions, amendments, actually, fill out the survey and see what you think. And then from that point, we're going to try to get that out into the community and get different perspectives from the community about historic preservation and what areas they think might be historic, et cetera, and so on. And also at the same time, we're going to be working on organizing a community event for the survey, and that reach out to a couple people who work with special events in the city. So maybe we can try to piggyback off another event, because I've heard that that is a successful way to do that, to get more participants to the table. So I should have more information on that next time. But yeah, Jason, let me know if I'm missing anything there.
Nope, that seems to capture it. And yeah, just for folks, the kickoff meeting things really just kind of a quick run through of the contract and stuff like that. So that's why it was only just a small little stakeholder thing.
Was there any need, or will there be any need to take them on a tour around town?
So part of their thing is doing windshield reconnaissance survey. So there'll be part of that survey and things like that will also be helping them target certain areas. But through background research and other things, they'll be, walking the streets and documenting things and all that stuff. So, but yeah, certainly that's the thing that's part of the survey too. If there's stuff that you feel they need to pay attention to, that's part of so they can closer scrutinize it. That's part of what that's all about. So you'll have that opportunity.
I was just thinking it might save them some time at pointing out certain things already. I'm guessing they've already got the walking tour pamphlet and those things.
I don't know about, can't speak to that.
If we can make sure that they've received what the Historic Preservation Society has created, that and the city of Inglewood, that would be great. I think that at least could lean them to what we feel is important right now.
Yeah, I can definitely pass those along to Ashley. So.
Well, and thank you for doing that, Jason. I'm sure others of us would have been glad to be part of that if we'd been notified. But
you wouldn't. It's just literally just walking through the contract. So it's not anything discussing the it's not necessarily the overall project or talking about properties or anything like that. So unless you want to talk about deliverables, and I don't think you'd want to be there.
well,
we had to keep quorum as well.
Is there a way to see what the contract is, or can you do a summary of what the contract is? An abstract?
Or are we just waiting? Well, just wait for a report.
CJ, you kind of cut out. What was your question?
The contract, I'm curious, what are we asking of them? How's it being set out? Am I still being cut out?
No, I got you. So the contract, I think I should be able to just forward that to you guys. I mean, it's just basically a set of deliverables that Pinion's going to give for the city. I want to make sure that's okay first before I send that on, but I'll look into that.
I think we'd be interested.
I don't want to make this sound rude or anything, but Tamara, do you feel you need to stay? Are you trying to learn of us, or because I was thinking, gosh, your time is so darn valuable right now.
Actually, if you don't mind me being here, I'm just listening in just to get some
Okay.
background. I think it's nice just to hear what's going on. So the next time this comes across my desk, I'll know a little bit about your board.
Oh, thank you.
All
Thank you.
right.
Thank you. I just thought you might be very civil and didn't want to say goodbye.
Thank you. I appreciate the consideration.
She's not being paid by the hour anymore, so it's generous.
Yes.
Are you, sorry to get off topic, just real quick. Are you a staff of one? Do you have any other attorneys that work for you, or is it just you?
We have 4 total attorneys in the office.
Okay.
But I also oversee municipal prosecution. So we have a clerk in the prosecutor's office and the prosecutor. And then I also have a deputy city attorney and an assistant city attorney. So we do have an opening. If you know anyone that's wanting to become a municipal attorney, we do have an opening that we will be filling soon for that.
All right.
Okay. Onward to our new business, which I put in the role of Historic Preservation Society because I think I hope we can use them to lobby for things that we want, since the city seems to pay more attention to them than they do to the commission. Matt and I worked on interview questions for the Inglewood Magazine summer edition. And I don't know whether you've seen it. I didn't even get a hard copy this time around, but I did look it up online, and there's this tiny little article on the way on the back pages, and it's mostly about the Historic Preservation Society. The city does not seem to be able to tell us apart. So like, how can we use that?
Well, I think that's inherently been a problem since the beginning. Obviously, the Historic Society, we were around first, starting in the early 2010s. I'm trying to remember the exact year it was started. It was because of the historic just a matter of history for the folks on here. It was largely because of the work that Doug Cohn did on the Historic Society that created the attention with the city manager at the time and city council to create the Historic Preservation Commission. It was always intended that the two would be separate, that the Historic Preservation Commission would be kind of the legislative aspect of historic affiliated things such as ordinances and proper historic designation and those sort of things that a nonprofit couldn't do. And then the Inglewood Historic Preservation Society would continue along with education about the history in the city, raising awareness for loss of properties, loss of historic buildings. But predominantly, our 501c3 status is under largely an educational side of things. Also, from a 501c3 standpoint, to stay safely in the 501c3, we can't be affiliated politically with any kind of entity or party or anything along those lines. So that was the benefit of the Historic Preservation Commission being kind of an arm of the city council, being an advisory commission. So I think there's a level of education that needs to happen internally within the city to help this out. There have been instances where the Historic Society has been contacted on matters for, that should have gone to the commission, one of which being that article that we received. But I try to keep you involved, Melinda, whenever I hear anything. But I think there is definitely something that we need to help folks understand the difference between the nonprofit, community-oriented, Historic Preservation Society and the actual legislative aspect of the Historic Preservation Commission.
Yeah, and and the commission has only existed since 2017. although the original ordinance to create it was passed in 2004.
Yep.
And it was due to Doug Cohn lobbying for 13 years, I guess, when they finally decided to create the commission. But so we're still, let's say, trying to get the attention of the city, I guess, to realize that, yeah, we're here and we're not the society, although I think we're probably all members of the society, but
It's been it was definitely an interesting and strange, bumpy and dirt road taken to get to where we're at now. But Melinda, I think actually one thing that may be of benefit is to both you and I have a conversation, just kind of a general update with the city manager, Sean Lewis, and we can kind of go over things and what we see the two organizations, what I guess goals to fulfill with each organization. There's going to be crossover. I know when the commission was voted in place, it was even a question on the board with the Inglewood Historic Preservation Society of, well, what do we do now? But there is a clear delineation there of education versus legislative. So, but yeah, to your point, there could be things that the Historic Society could help this commission out with also. So that's obviously open also.
well, and that's like I say, since the society seems to have the ear of the city when we don't, I'd like for us to be able to call on the society, I suppose, so that we're not being just, those annoying people that show up at city council meetings and complain about how the neighborhood's going to pot. But
Hey, Melinda, I gotta bring something up though. I've got to question what you're saying, because you can ask Matt the history of even the society working within the library, the society working within communications, and stories written beautifully, and then when they're all said and done, 5% of what we wrote was what was published. I mean, so just so you know, even though it may come across as that, I can't say the society has had an even keel road and is up in front of everybody any less than any one of us. We've been in front of the council a few times. I really don't think we want to demean ourselves publicly at all. It's just this evolution, and it's very slow.
right,
Yeah.
so, yeah.
Well, can I defer to Councilmember Cuesta real fast and see what kind of quick temperature check, I guess, on this, or his perception of an understanding of the difference between the commission and the society.
Well, it's interesting because I see you folks as the official commission. We have our boards and commission, and you guys are that, let's call it sanctioned group by the city. Now, with the other group, one of the things that comes to mind for me, the other group is Doug Cohn has become, kind of the figurehead for that group. And he speaks at public comment. Well, prior to COVID, spoke at public comment almost every meeting, I would say. And he had, some great stories that were always informative on some portion of Inglewood's history. And so I think that amongst general public, and that's a very blob of a group, general public, but I think that's where sometimes the which group is which can get a little bit convoluted. I know that I don't believe council has any misconceptions about which group is which, nor where really the authority rests between the two groups, which would be with this one is the sanctioned commission. That's my take on it. And I will tell you, just from I am no marketing expert, but the names are very similar too. And I think that that is where sometimes
That is true.
the confusion lies. And I know that's a very basic thing to state, but that sometimes I think is where folks, even knowing which one they're speaking of, interchangeably use them, not necessarily realizing that they've done it.
That's a good point.
It is, yes. And I'm wondering, well, as long as we're modifying the ordinance, maybe we could change our name too. I mean, we could just be the Preservation Commission or something like that, that would eliminate some of that confusion.
Yeah, and for that matter, I can take this back to the board, the Inglewood Historic Preservation Society board, and review that. I have talked with a few folks, and we have a very long name as a organization, sometimes truncated as EHPS. But there's possibly the idea of changing our name now. The history behind that is when we formed as the Inglewood Historic Preservation Society, that name was very specific to not confuse ourselves with the previous historic society, which was the Inglewood Historical Society.
Yeah.
Which ended quite abruptly. But so kind of the reforming of a historic society within Inglewood, we had to come up with a much different name. So we may be further past that now, and might be able to talk to the rest of the board and see what their opinion is of our name. It's quite long.
Let's not both drop historic and then have the same problem. Then we're the Preservation Commission and you're the Preservation Society.
Yeah.
So
It's
That would be a
we gotta
funny problem.
coordinate.
I'm not- I know-
501c3, you'd have to amend other documents as well if you change your name.
Yeah, it's probably, I was just gonna say, it's probably a little logistically easier for the society to change its name, not saying
Yes.
that it should. I know you were on the corner first, but History Inglewood or something like that.
Actually, it's funny you bring that up. That was one of the names that we'd considered to kind of modernize our group, was Historic Inglewood.
Historic Inglewood, there you go.
Love
That's
that.
good, yeah.
Yeah.
It's
So
catchy, yeah.
and that's actually, I believe that's our domain name too. So,
Oh,
because,
works out.
yeah, typing in Inglewood Historic Preservation Society into a URL is a little bit long to do. So we chose that early on, but yeah, I'll take it back to the board and see what we think. It's certainly easier for us to change our name than the commission. And our commission is more in line with other cities too, I believe, with the nomenclature.
Yeah. Well, and
And
I mean, I
we're
can see
actually
why how
working
some of
for
the confusion happened just because of Doug and I mean, God bless him. I wish he was still doing his moments in history, Inglewood history at the council meetings, just to keep it in everybody's front of mind. So, but I can see how he kind of became the face of historic preservation, and that got in front of our faces.
Sorry, CJ, you had said something there for a moment and I didn't catch what you said. Okay.
Staff's choice. Does staff have something they want to say?
I don't have anything this evening. I don't know if Madeline or Tamara does, but I don't have anything.
I don't have anything either.
Well, and for commissioner's choice, I know we wanted to bring up that house on Delaware. We sort of already discussed it. At this point, we're powerless to stop whatever happened to you say it's under contract already?
Last I checked, I think that was as of Saturday or Sunday, it was under contract.
And I wonder if it's under contract to an individual or to a developer.
Well, and that's the problem. We won't know until that's recorded technically. I
Yeah.
don't know if there's any other public information available on that until it actually gets recorded in the county. I'll share my screen if that's all right, and I'll show a picture of the property so those of you know how much of a loss this is going to be.
Maybe not, maybe not, maybe not.
Maybe not. You're right, CJ. Maybe we get lucky, but this is the Google Street View of the house. Beautiful, actually. I mean, obviously in this particular iteration when they were painting it, but it's been actively taken care of. The garden in the back is beautiful. It has wonderful woodwork on the inside, and yeah, so 3100 Delaware, if you guys want to drive by it and take a look. The listing itself, specifically, they put pictures of other let me stop sharing here.
It's at the corner of Dartmouth, right, Matt? Sorry.
Yeah.
Delaware and Dartmouth.
Yeah, I drive by it every day going to and from work. I know the exact house.
The listing agent quite specifically, and I can read you the mention of it in here. It was, I think most of you have read it, but
Go
just for
ahead.
the benefit. Okay, it's loading here on my phone. Stand by. It is under contract. It says 850,000. Whether you're just impressed with this vintage gem for its beauty, looking for a good project to preserve this truly unique historic piece of Englewood real estate, or you're considering a new multifamily project, you can't pass up this rare opportunity. And it goes on about the information. It's quite large. I believe it's 100-foot frontage. And it said, on just under 1/3 acre and R2B medium density single and multi-dwelling unit residential district zoning, could this be your next fourplex? The neighbor behind just did a couple years ago.
Do
Kind
we
of,
have any history about this? I mean, obviously it faces the elementary school. I mean, I could definitely bring up the idea of its environmental significance. Do you know what I mean? That idea of the face of the history,
yeah.
facing the future of our children. But that idea that, Melinda, that we can't do anything, I disagree. If we want to, we can state, we can protest, we can
Oh, yeah.
initiate,
And
momentum.
no,
We have no idea if we're, because my whole thing, I wanted to call them, and of course a whole week went by. I only knew it was for sale for a week, and was to tell them, hey, for you to be historic, you already are. You've got a year thing. You can start getting some tax credit, maybe some grants. Let's go ahead and see what options you have to improve your house.
well, and it's a 5-bedroom, 2-bath house, and the asking price is about the same as what they're asking for half of one of the ugly Soviet duplexes. Who wouldn't rather live in something like that?
Yeah. Well, and
I have a screen to share too here. This is a picture of the same house. It's from about 1975. And it's in the collections of the public library.
What?
Yeah,
What
it's
did
in the
you
library's
just say,
collection.
Melinda? You gurgled out for me.
It's from about 1975,
Right?
this picture.
And what'd you say about the public library?
It's in the public library's picture collection.
Okay.
The
I
idea of being
downloaded
able to, the idea of being able to approach property owners and offer them things like, there's grants you can get, there's tax cuts, stuff like that sounds good, but are any of those in place? Like, is any of that real at this time? Do we know what the tax credits are? Do we know what the grants are? What would we really be offering properties? Obviously, this one might be, this one's like in action now, but for next time, do we have any of those things in place that could be attempted?
District Colorado.
Jason, what?
So it's not, since it's not listed, it does not qualify for any of those incentives.
But it can get listed, right?
It could, I mean, potentially there'd be a lot more information needed to see if it would be, eligible for the state or national register. I would certainly just kind of, if for its architecture and the craftsman details, and it would say certainly at a minimum, the state, don't know what kind of alterations have been made over time, but certainly, and state, you have to be listed as a residence. You'd have to be listed on the state register to get those residential tax credits. And yeah, and then there's things like, this, state historical fund grants, which, they'd have to partner with somebody, but those listing would open those up.
I
It's
think
a matter of
ultimately
paperwork.
like once the new language that we're proposing gets worked out and adapted, maybe we can put together like a kind of a kit that pulls all the resources together, like a one-pager that people can find if they search for it, but also we can give to property owners or real estate agents just to put it in their hands. I mean, we can't file grants for people, but if we can consolidate the resources, make a nice PDF that's got the links all on it or something like that, just to help. I mean, I think that could be more than not helping. I don't know if it'll be much, but it'll be more than not helping.
Yeah, certainly. And as you said, with, links to things, in History Colorado, there's already a lot of, one pagers for the tax credits and various things like that. So as you said, it would probably just be a lot of kind of pulling that together and presenting to our citizens and homeowners and stuff like that.
If we get a place on the website, we can put all of those links also on our page on the website too, because I think some people might look to the city before they would to the state.
Yeah. And
Well, is there anything that any information that we can kind of get from community development on what any status or information that may exist on that property? Is there, it's probably not even sold yet.
Yeah.
You could do a Cora request to the city clerk's office.
Okay,
Depending on the information you're looking for, you can basically do a Cora request for any sort of building permits that building or any sort of land use cases that community development has on file.
have you heard
Yeah,
of
but
anything?
nothing's going to be formal yet until the owner's transferred. We're talking about rumor right now, right?
I think back to answer your question, Matt, I don't know about any other planning staff members, but I personally haven't received any phone calls regarding that property or in any terms of like doing a development review team meeting for anything. So as far as I know but I can't speak for the other planners in the department, but not that I'm aware of. Nothing's come across my desk anyway.
Okay.
well, we can just hope it's being bought by an individual. And not being bought by somebody who wants to just tear it down.
When they say a fourplex, I assume they're talking about the kind of fourplexes you see around Wash Park, where they convert, the building stays the same on the outside, but they convert it on the inside. I'm not imagining that the agent was promoting raising the property.
Actually, that was,
That's explicit. There's pictures of the floor.
Yeah,
plats.
there's actually-
Oh, really?
Pictures
Oh, that's
of-
terrible. That's
Yeah.
terrible. It's hard
Yeah.
for me to like comprehend.
It was, I looked it up while we were talking. It's interesting. It's like, oh, it's a great piece of historic Inglewood you could own, or you could just knock it down and throw up a floor
That's
plan.
crazy.
Whatever will sell the property ASAP.
Well, and that's the thing. It could have been a great selling point of just, you know, show the video, show the historic pictures of it. You know, I mean, it's a historic building and it's in reasonably good condition and it's got a beautiful yard and garden.
And my struggle with this is they're not going to get any more money if they turn it into a duplex, triplex, or quadplex. They're still going to get probably the same amount of money as if it would just sell on the normal open market. Why is the real estate agent going to such an extent to push that? It's fascinating.
Yeah,
Fascinating. Evil.
yeah.
Well, not change subject. I do have one more thing. I talked with Chris Hargreth. I forgot last meeting to bring this up, but I believe it was a meeting before last. We talked about plaques and logos and things along those lines. Had a great conversation with Chris Hargreth. He wasn't aware that we had been working on our own plaque, but was really excited that we were. The plaques and you know, kind of placemaking, and he had a term for it, you know, kind of the historic, the historic plaques that they're working on are what he views as separate from ours. So we would still have our own plaque, is in his eyes. We would still have our own plaque. We would keep our logo on that. And any plaques that are done through the communications department would be just simply placemaking for a historic walking tour using augmented reality or QR codes, or just placing informational plaques around the city defining historic areas or historic buildings, and then we would have our plaque on top of, you know, that would be placed on the building next to that.
Well, we did discuss also in the last meeting whether the commission can actually cover, we have enough funding to cover the cost of a plaque if we've designated a building. A district is another question, but
Yeah.
And of course, and it's true in Golden too, anything that's already on the state or national register is assumed to be on our list also.
Right.
So we could go put something on the post office if we wanted, or the bank, or.
Mhm.
But,
So I think there was kind of the perception that possibly the communications department with the, because there's a different communications team now, and then there was when we first started, and likely when that plaque was laid out initially and our logo was laid out. So there was a perception that they wanted to change that, and Chris confirmed with me that that's not the intent at all. That their project is separate, parallel to ours.
Is their project / the society project?
They are working with the society on the signage, or that's the intent. We talked about it early on, and then the funding was used for the walking tour pamphlets, but there's apparently other additional funding that may now be available to allow for the actual construction of plaques or construction of landmarks, or those little podiums or whatever around the city to define specific areas. So they, the communications team would likely be working with the Historic Society on that project.
It would be cool to have so it's Idaho Springs has both logos on their plaques, both the society and their commission.
Yeah, and that's a really neat idea actually too, because I think because you know the walking tour pamphlets that were sent out, those had our logo on the last page. So being able to have this is the information about the monument, and then next to it is the actual official historic designation. So you got the HBC logo, and then you have the EHPS logo, or however we wish to do that. But yeah, having the two parallel to each other, I think is pretty important.
Please.
Well, and
consider-
for interpretive signage, for instance, that's, I mean, our plaque designating it as or for designated buildings, I think has to be our plaque, I mean, the commission's plaque. But for the interpretive educational things, I mean, education is also part of the commission's mandate. So,
Having both logos would be good.
yeah,
That's a good point. That's a really good point. And
Well, if you're gonna
involvement.
be,
Mhm.
if you're gonna be using the QR codes and having them be interactive too, there's a lot of resources that you can connect through there as well. So it can become like each station can become like a portal to all the different stakeholders who've made it possible as well. Like again, it could link to our website. I keep talking about our page on the website. Is that happening? Do we have one? Or is that just like a place I put ideas in my mind?
Place to put ideas in your mind right now, actually. We
Can
hope
we
to
get
see.
a little real estate on the webpage? I think we would make good use of it. Like we would link with your project there, and we could link resources there. Anyway,
And I think there was discussion about possibly setting something up while the historic survey gets underway.
what could
But
we
I would
do
need
to make that happen? Just because a lot of our ideas kind of go there. Like even when we do eventually open up the historic neighborhood map project to the greater community, that might be a good place for some of that activity, like links to the form to submit feedback, things like that. Resources for grants and tax cuts for historic designation, and yeah, like promotion of what we do. Like there's a lot of things that we could do on a website, but what can we do to make it real?
I'd recommend speaking with Chris Hargeth in communications. He would be the best person to be able to get a website on the greater city of Inglewood website up and running. It probably would be a good idea to have a discussion on exactly what content that you would like to have on that website. But that, I think, if somebody would like to talk with Chris Hargeth, I could speak to him as well and see what we could do to make that happen. But we should definitely have some ideas of what initially to have on there.
Eric, would you mind priming the conversation on that one? And then, Helene, we can talk about this too. I can get you his contact information separately, or I can send the contact information for Chris Hargeth. Technically, I believe the right way to do this is for me to send it to Melinda, and then she sends it out to everybody because that's part of the visibility and open meeting stuff. But either way, Eric, I think it'd be helpful if you could just kind of prime him on it, let him know that we're interested in that.
Absolutely.
And
yeah, and then just to make a quick correction there, for anything to be distributed to the commission, make sure it goes through me as staff liaison.
you as staff. Okay.
Yep.
So, Helene, what do you think about that?
I think that's good. I mean, I think we could think about it as a group too for the month while you do that, Eric, and think about what content would be on there. But I imagine the resources we just talked about, Jason, like that, the different kinds of incentives, updates on our move to add the new language to the record. I don't know what else. I mean, the neighborhood map project. I mean, I think there's probably things. I don't know if we'd want to put any notice up about something like the house on Delaware. Like, I don't know if we'd want to use the website to draw attention to things like that, or if we wanted, I'm not sure. So maybe like as a group, we should think about it for the month, come up with a short list of what we think the purpose of our page would be. And by then, Eric will have already laid some of that groundwork, and then we can try and make that happen. That way, when you're doing the walking tours and the plaques are there and people are accessing the QR codes, some of that can jump into our website.
Mhm.
Some of it can promote like what we're doing. So I think it's a good first step to more outreach for us to have this like digital landing page.
Of course, I think we should maybe start a threatened and endangered list. That, say, yeah, while you're walking around, look at these because you may not get another chance, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Have we ever considered social media as a group? Do we have that in place?
I don't know if we have the ability to do that as a, due to sunshine laws in the state of Colorado. I don't know if that's something that we could do as on an official capacity.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good. It actually just saved us a lot of work, not being able to do that.
I don't know. That's my speculation on it. I don't speak with any authority on that. Maybe, I don't know, Cash or Tamara. I don't know if would we be allowed to have any kind of social media independent from the city?
I mean, the city has social media pages, but I think something separate, no. You know, if we refer
The
to us
Historic
on-
Society, does the Historic Society keep social media going?
We do. We've got Twitter, we've got Facebook and whatnot.
Maybe we can just send ideas over your way instead of having like multiple competing history Inglewood social media platforms going. So like if we did want to draw attention to the Delaware House, maybe the Historic Society could be doing that.
Yeah.
That would be my recommendation. Legally, you could have your own social media. There's nothing that prohibits it, but you would be subject to open records request and you would have to produce copies and we'd have to maintain copies. The city would probably want to run it through its departments. So it would be my recommendation that you just work with the society and just do it one on their end. And then you don't have to duplicate efforts or potentially put out conflicting messages.
I love that. I think that's a great
Yeah,
solution.
and that which is, you know, part of my question is, you know, how can the society places the society can go that we can't, and like calling attention to the house on Delaware is maybe one of the places it can go.
And when we do have that landing page potentially, and we do update something and we want to get that message out, maybe the society can do that for us too. Like periodically link out to our landing page.
I had a commissioner's choice thing. I wanted to make people aware. So May 21st was the State Historic Preservation Review Board meeting, and the commission voted unanimously to move the Inglewood Oddfellows building to the Keeper of the National Register. And I was helping them out with a quick turnaround because that's a tax credit project. So sent that off the following week. And so the Park Service has 45 days to review and 60 to list. So we should have another National Register listed building here pretty soon.
Oh, great.
Cool.
Did everyone catch that? Oddfellows, where that is on Broadway? What is it being used for now, Jason?
Oh, well, I think there's like one side has a salon. There's a kind of school like dance class thing for children on the upper floor. And I think the other commercial part of it is vacant currently, but yeah, again, that was a tax credit project. So they did a lot of rehabilitation on the interior, as well as doing things like they added an interior elevator for accessibility and things like that. So would be yeah, it's a good building, and always good to have those going forward.
How exciting. Thank you, Jason.
Great.
Good news, yay.
Yay, yeah. Well, and of course, yeah, it was already on the state register. And no, it wasn't.
You know, the Dransfeld building next to it is on the state register.
Oh, I'm getting them confused. Yeah. Then So yeah, definitely our downtown undesignated historic district is filling up with designations. That'll be great. Other questions, other subjects? Does someone want to move that we adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Aye.
It's like, all in favor, say bye.
Bye.
All right. Good to
Alright,
see you
thanks,
all.
everybody. Meeting adjourned at 7:49.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone.
Hi.